Hello, this is G Damson, and today we are going to do a fun Kiwi, super elementary, super easy, perfect for beginners. I will add our circle around the edge, which will represent the skin part of the kiwi, and this is pretty much the first layer of it, so it kind of gives me the outline, but we're gonna work on that a little bit later again. I will be using green and yellows for the middle part and white, and I need to give it an extra layer which will add to the texture of the kiwi. I'm gonna see how that happens on the way. And I am adding more color because my background is black and the color yellow is very transparent. So I need to emphasize a little bit more. I did not want to add white to this. I just wanted to play with the greens and yellows. I'm using a angled brush, which helps a ton, especially when you're trying to create lines. Much easier than a line brush or a very thin round brush. And from that second circle that I just made with the green, I'm pulling in lines towards the center, and none of this is even and equal and perfect, which makes it so easy. And you're gonna see on the end how everything's going to come full circle and it's going to complete our illusion of a kiwi. They don't have to be perfect spacing in between either. So the center I will have to go with white, and if you see, my white is not quite white, it's still a little bit of yellowish greenish white, and I need to cover a little bit, let it dry, and then cover it again. I do like this fruit to be on that black canvas, so it will just make a little bit of a painting with more layers, but that will add to the beauty. So I need to leave it alone to dry, so I'm gonna move along, and I'm gonna go to the green, which the green is with a tiny bit of yellow in it, but more green. And I'm gonna add those areas where the seeds are resting. And I will do those lines with a round brush because the beginning part will be nicely rounded, and then I can pull towards the center and away from the canvas, and it's gonna create thinner part on the end. And that just gonna help these shapes develop. So right now it looks like a green daisy with a circle around, but we'll take care of that. So I will go back to the outside. I'll be trying from time to time the center and see if it's ready, but I'm gonna be layering those paints for the center. So on the outside I am doing ochre, on top of that a little bit darker brown, and because the canvas is black, it's very easy to clean up anything that comes out of the area that we want the skin of the kiwi to be. So the center will have to be much lighter greenish, almost whitish greenish, comparing the outer circle. And I'm kind of like bouncing my brush around when I'm picking up the color, just to create more like texture. And we do have different colors underneath, so that helps. So pretty much we're just building in. And I'm gonna pull that lighter yellowish green towards the center, but not all the way in. And you can see how the black is still visible on some parts, so we're gonna have a quite building on top of all those colors. And I'm pouncing on the canvas when I'm working on a bigger area. So now, since the paint from outside coming in is that yellowish greenish and that whitish yellowish greenish on the inside, it's much lighter. I'm pulling it towards the yellow lines coming from outside, and they're beautifully mixing because the paint is still wet. So I'm just trying to like blend them a little bit better and fill in everything that is showing some black. And you can see how I'm just bouncing the brush around. So I'm gonna start with the little fuzzy look on the skin of the kiwi. And I just did a few spikes around that outer circle. And I'm gonna add those seeds, but some of those seeds are very dark and some of them are super light, and it's black with a little bit of blue in it. And some of them I will cover slightly with kind of a transparent green, so with a green over, but because the green is not a strong color as the black, they will be slightly visible, so it's gonna look like the seeds are a little bit deeper, not just on the surface. And it's starting to look more and more like a kiwi, so we're just playing around and blending in. Just playing with different greens, adding a little bit blue to the green with the yellow. So that's another layer, just gives us more interest. And now my center is ready, and I still want to pounce my brush over so I'm not creating a smooth surface, because we have the thickness of the acrylics. And continuing with those little spikes. So the spikes on the skin, they're not just going directly straight out. I'm going to crisscross some of them will be 90 degrees, some of them will be 45. And I am going to use a variation of ochre brown mixed with ochre, or ochre mixed with a little bit of yellow, or ochre mixed with white and also with black. And that's going to be different color spikes, and that's going to make it more fuzzy and three-dimensional looking. So I'll bring the camera a little bit closer in a second so you can see those spikes. I'm still working on the center. I lost count of how many layers I did, but it's getting there. So that's a lot more yellow, and that gives me the chance to straighten a little bit the outside circle of the greenish yellowish part. So I'm using a tiny line brush and pretty much cover some of the dark seeds. Not all of them, but some of them will be slightly covered. And I'm working a little bit more on straightening lines. So that's kind of like where we start doing a little more details. We're gonna add a little dots in the center, like a lighter color on the darker flower looking element. And also on the end, I will add a medium that will make it shiny. Just adding more texture, so it's white, but because my yellow is wet, it's kind of mixing beautifully. And just adding little spots here and there. Making it more three-dimensional. And the same thing, I'm adding a little white, more white to the yellowish white, which is already very, very light. And adding a tiny shadow or darker, straighter line right between the skin and the yellow part. And cleaning everything. So my ochre is right next to the yellow. So when I mix ochre with the yellow, it's just gonna give a very lighter version of that color. And I'm gonna continue with the spikes, the fuzziness of the kiwi. And make sure you are moving your brush in different angles and directions so it's non-uniform. Here's a little closer so you can see what's going on. Some are very tiny, some of them are a little bit thicker. You don't have to be all the same. It actually will look better if it's not. And with some of the black, I actually push that black in from outside in. And when we have the ochre wet, it's mixing with the brown, or the black is mixing with the brown. So now I'm adding a little bit of a ochre with yellow mixture, much lighter, and pretty much it looks like I'm writing gibberish on the edge of the kiwi, but it creates that fuzziness. and pretty much that's it. Just adding a few little spots and dots, cleaning up the last of it, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell so you get notifications for my future videos. And right here I'm adding that medium that will make it look really shiny, and it's going to look more like, when it dries, more like a oil painting. But happy painting!